Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of White Line Fever Live. It's also the third episode of White Line Fever Kicks, and it's the 22nd episode of White Line Fever Kicks on YouTube. And I'm now going to do a really good segue for the podcast proper. Welcome back to the program, and this is our rugby league segment. And I want to introduce you to our guests, and then I'll tell you what the subject is. Our guests are the journalist John Davidson. Hello, John.
Hello.
The journalist and publisher, jack of all trades, Phil Kaplan. Hello.
Good evening.
And the impresario behind Super League Pod, Mark Illingworth. How are you, Mark?
Hello, I'm fine. Steve, how about yourself?
Good. Now, when I set this discussion up, I invited 5 people, and then I was subsequently told that you can only fit 4. So Paul Bennett, who has very strong views on the subject we're about to discuss, has basically the music stopped and we've run out of chairs. So at some point we will invite Paul into the discussion. I don't know if he can even hear us, if he knows what's going on. But the discussion point is should Golden Point be introduced in Super League? There were big changes happened last week, and Super League, the new organisation under Robert Elston, holds sway now. Robert Elston is a big fan of the NRL, and he loves Golden Point. And I heard Carl Fitzpatrick from Warrington say in a podcast last week, we're looking to change the on-field product. So is this the right change for Super League? And I guess what we do is we go left to right, starting left to right as I see it. I've got no idea how it looks to the viewers. And we'll start with John. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think it's good that Paul's not on, because he said on Twitter today that anyone who believes Golden Point should be way forward should get a slap in the head. So I said to him, slap me in the head first. I think Paul's obviously channeling his alter ego, Wayne Bennett, in his hatred of Golden Point, but I think it's a no-brainer. There's nothing wrong with the draw per se, but you look at some of the Golden Point matches that the NRL's had and over years, and I don't think anyone who's a regular NRL watcher isn't converted about the entertainment and the drama of Golden Point. And as Phil said on his excellent podcast on Monday, and I agree with completely, I think the product is in need of a revamp. It's in need of something to improve it, and I think this would go a long way to that. Well, part of the way anyway. I think it's one thing that can help.
Okay, we are going to trade you out for a second for the agent provocateur you just name checked, Paul Bennett, and we're going to hear while we do that, we're going to hear what Mark thinks. Mark, you man of the people, what do you actually are not just voting on behalf of yourself here? You're voting on behalf of the populace on the terraces. Do you think they would enjoy Golden Point?
I'll try and be sensible then. I think there's a problem, isn't it, that the rugby league core audience, it seems to be entrenched in this idea that we want the sport to actually operate as if it was association football, and it's not. It's who are we trying to sell the game to? I don't think the hardcore M62 audience are really into Golden Point in any way, shape or form. But then the new audiences that we might be trying to sell our game to in the North Americas and stuff like that would definitely buy into it. I mean, you listen to them talk in the NFL about it being like a kissing your sister or something is the saying they bring out. No one really wants to you don't really get anything from it. So I don't know. I'm not maybe not the right person. I'm kind of on the fence. I like getting rewarded for a draw. I find draws exciting to watch in any way. But at the same time, how good is Golden Point when it works? And also, does it sharpen our players a little bit more for the high-intensity moments at the end of games when you've got to deliver at that final stage?
Yeah, great point. And you're right. I guess it isn't what people are used to, and I get it. And I think the bigger issue, by the way, hello, Paul. How are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
We're going to leave you to last because we know you're the most strident person on this on this subject. But I think before I go to you, Phil, I think it actually speaks to the kind of the philosophy of the new regime in a way, that they do want to spruce things up. And I know Rod Studd often says, do we want to be a sport or do we want to be a freak show? And I'm sure he'll have some things to say about this. But it's not just this one issue, is it? It's actually It's actually the direction that the Super League under Robert Elston want to go in.
Yeah, it's the tip of an iceberg where I think they're looking at particularly speed of the game more than anything else. I think they felt that we've got to a situation somehow where matches are now taking 2 hours, and that's putting people off. So what do we do to lessen that? That's something they're certainly looking at with shot clocks and such like. But also, how do you add an extra bit of excitement? And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't have a problem with it. You know, we have it in the Challenge Cup, and isn't that just the anomaly of rugby league, that it's okay in some competitions but not others? And the argument against it is that people try too many drop goals. Well, in any game that's coming up to be a potential draw, they're trying them from 10, 15 minutes out. So, yeah, let's have a resolution of a game. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's have a winner. That's what sport is all about. Over to my learned colleague, Mr. Paul Bennett, who will give you the old-fashioned view of that.
And yet he's probably the youngest one here, and he's going to give us the old-fashioned view. Here he is, Paul. You've been on social media about this all day. For those who've been living under a rock, what are your views?
I just don't get what's wrong with a draw. What is wrong with a draw? Can anyone answer me that? I just don't get it.
Speak up a little. You're a bit quiet. You're a bit quiet, Paul.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me better?
We actually just want to see your nasal hairs, and that's the reason I said that.
It answers the question because sport is about winners and losers.
Is that any better?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah?
Finish your
going
point,
well,
Paul.
isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds much better. Mate. Yeah.
Oh, marvellous.
So yeah, start again.
Yeah, I guess I don't really get what the problem is with draws. Like, what's the problem? What's the issue? Why is that? Why are they such a bad thing? I mean, the analogies that's put out there about kissing your sister. I mean, these guys must have attractive sisters. I mean, I like draws. I enjoy draws. I wouldn't compare that to kissing my sister. You know, it doesn't work for me. The draws are good. I've never watched a game of rugby league that's ended in a draw and thought, oh, that's a shame that was a draw. Like, what's the point? Draw's fine. I'll make this other point as well before. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Like,
I interrupted you.
What? Obviously, Golden Point exists currently in the NRL. But what happens after 10 minutes of Golden Point extra time if no one scored? You get a draw. So why is it fine after 90 minutes but not 80?
It's about
you're willing to accept that draw's fine, but just I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. It's you know, I accept the point actually about the American audience, and that's the only thing that would make me think about it. But I don't have a problem with them.
You know,
unless someone can persuade me otherwise.
Now I'm going to trade. After Phil speaks, I'm going to trade him back out. It's like shuffling a deck of cards. Who is what card? I'll leave that to other people to decide. But I'm going to trade after Phil speaks. I'll put Mark back in. But I swear I got this in the paper once. I swear I did. If a draw is like kissing your sister, it was a weekend of incest in the NRL. I swear I got that in the paper once. That was a long time ago. Now we've got a very long time ago. You can't get away with that sort of stuff anymore. Here's Sean Lawless, who has a comment. He says a game can be a good draw rather than sometimes spoilt by a penalty, which is, you know, I suppose it can put more pressure on the referee, but then again, do they give a penalty in Golden Point? And we saw, Daryl Powell say that he wants Golden Try, which has its own issues, doesn't it? It has its own issues. But anyway, I'll go back to you, Phil, because I know you're bursting to speak.
I was just saying that Paul's picked up an interesting point, that at the end of Golden Point, if there isn't a resolution, you can still have a draw. So why not have the best of both worlds? Why not have 10 minutes of teams constantly going for victory, which is what sport is all about, let's be honest. And the default position is you could still have a draw if you wanted to. I don't think you get many draws after 10 minutes, but the whole essence of sport is winners and losers, leaving a ground knowing whether your team has won or lost. And yet draws are very exciting and very rare. We must say it's not something that we're talking about that's the most important thing the sport's got to look at the moment, because we don't get that many of them. But, leave the game with a winner and a loser. That's sport.
We're in the entertainment business, aren't we? So maybe sometimes we have too much regard for records and stuff like that. I mean, some tries used to be worth 3 points, and field goals used to be worth, or drop goals used to be worth X. And we've changed so many things: 6 tackles, 4 tackles, unlimited, interchange. They all change the fabric of the sport. And we're in the entertainment business. So, if we can agree that, do we agree that Golden Point is entertaining, and are we just basically maybe having too much regard for the kind of, the tropes of the sport and the history of the sport when we say let's not do this? You know what I mean?
I'm not convinced it is entertaining. Isn't it just a drop goal-a-thon for 10 minutes? Just somebody trying to get a drop goal to win the game?
Go. You disagree with this?
I think most.
Go on, John, so I can slap you.
You have to slap me through the camera. No, I think most of the Golden Point games that I can remember recently have been, they've been fantastic. I remember I think it was Canberra Manly last season that had 2 occasions, and there was the sort of sledging going on with Dylan Walker and Josh Hodgson, and a penalty to win the game. Obviously, there was the Jonathan Thurston drop goal in the grand final in extra time. I just think it really does add drama and excitement, and people sort of say, oh, it'll just be a drop goal a thon, but that's not actually the case in every Golden Point. Yes, it does happen, but you've seen plenty of golden tries, and I just can't see why not do it. I mean, I can understand for a team who's battled hard for 80 minutes or 100 minutes and not come away with anything, but as you said, Steve, we're in the entertainment industry, and I think Super League is losing fans, or at least it's not bringing in new fans, so something needs to be done to spice up the contest.
Now, don't we just get the 10 minutes of trying to get drop goals anyway? It's just, it comes at the expense at the moment, I suppose, of having 10 minutes of trying to score a try before the 10 minutes of trying to score a drop goal. I think our problem is that the game's taking so long. If we take some time out of our normal 80 minutes of game, we might have time for another 5-10 minutes at the end. But at the moment, we don't have time for that because everyone wants to get home before 10:30 at night. So the Super League hasn't got that side right. If we got that side right, then maybe we would find that 10 minutes of drop goal kicking or whatever it might be fun to watch, because we've seen another extra 10 minutes of game time where people have tried to score a try. So I suppose that is kind of a way I'd look at it. I'd rather see people trying to score tries than trying to score drop goals, but are we not just seeing that anyway?
Yeah, no, I think, and to move this on, so we're not just talking about the same thing for the next 18 minutes we have to run, we also need to, I guess, explain why golden try is a bad idea. And I think I'm right in saying that it basically means teams will just concede penalties deliberately because they know that a penalty goal is not going to decide the match. So I know I said that it's okay to fiddle with the fabric of the sport over the course of a century or a decade, but to fiddle with the rules over the course of one match, and from my point of view, is a bridge too far. And as I said, it encourages cynical play. Now, do we have anyone in favour of golden try who's here? And you know what? The next question I ask, I'm actually going to trade myself out because it's not fair that I'm here for the whole program and you all get put on the sidelines. But just let's talk about golden try for a second and whether anyone thinks that's a good idea.
I don't. Silence.
I think we've already seen teams give away loads of penalties, haven't we? Yeah.
Sorry. Now there was 2 of you speaking there, so we'll start with Paul. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, basically the point that you made, Steve, absolutely nails that. I think it can be exploited by certain teams. The rules can be exploited to as long as you're not conceding a try, you can concede a penalty to stop it. If you're looking for some sort of golden point, let's say you change my mind and I'm on board with you and we need golden point, then I guess you look at the NFL and the way that they changed their golden point as well. Because when they went to overtime, games used to be settled by field goals, and they thought that was pretty dull as well, which, I agree. But now, if you score a touchdown in extra time, you win straight away. If you kick a field goal, then the other team gets a chance to respond. perhaps there's something you could do there. If someone kicks a drop goal, maybe you get a set of 6 in which you can, respond. I don't know. It sounds like a crap idea, to be honest, but I'm trying to help you out in terms of how you could make Golden Point fair and interesting, and that it's not just what I fear about degenerating into drop goals to win a game, which I accept doesn't always happen, but it happens quite a lot.
Okay. Now, and I remember also that when Golden Point first came in the NRL, Wayne Bennett was one of the biggest opponents of it, and I was at that game in Melbourne where Scott Minto scored in Golden Point, and Wayne Bennett couldn't help himself. He was jumping up and down on the bench, and Scott Minto, incredible. Very similar body types, Scott Minto and Wayne Bennett. I'm sorry, John.
I said he's such an excitable character, Wayne.
He is. Now here's
I don't believe he ever jumped up and down.
Here's where I'm going to put myself on the bench, and I know Phil can lead this topic without me very capably, and that is the deeper issue of what changes we expect in philosophy under Robert Elston and Super League, the fact that they're willing to play with the on-field product, which a lot of people don't like, the fact that who knows what they might do to try and spruce things up. And obviously, it's not going to please everybody, is it? I would argue that from the public utterances of Robert Elston up to this point, he's quite an NRL fan, and that we could expect to see a lot more, like the shot clock has been mentioned. And hello, Gary Carter, if you're watching. Great story about this. So the reason we're discussing this, The shot clock has been discussed. So the question is, do we have concerns, about the direction that Super League might take in its bid to get people's attention back? There also is the question of, the North will rise again. In America, it's South will rise again. They seem to have this kind of credo that the North will rise again. Instead of being ashamed of the fact that we're an M62 sport, we're going to wear it as a badge of honour. So if this is the tip of the iceberg as far as a culture change in the British game led by Super League and Robert Elston, then what other things can we expect to see? And are they good or bad? And now I'm going to disappear from the right of my screen, and I'm going to be replaced by Phil. But I still have the controls, and I can basically remove any of you with no right of appeal at any time. So it's like the Gong Show now, okay? So I'm going to go down. Phil's going to come up, okay?
Judge Mascord. Scary.
Where's Phil? Phil's gone. Can we talk about Steve now and he'll not? Oh, Phil's back.
Now, this is benevolent despotism at its absolute worst.
I believe you were going to lead this.
I don't know about lead. All I was going to say was there's an element of tinkering with the deck chairs on the Titanic when we're talking about Golden Point, because surely the issue is that next year with the loop fixture structure that they've decided to bring in, we are going to have the same teams playing in the same format with the same players. Is it even the kind of cosmetic things that we should be looking at the moment, or does in fact the root and branch need to start a lot further down?
Well, can I jump in on that then, Phil? Because one thing I've noticed is the fans really aren't into this structure. They like it more than what we've moved away from, but the fans aren't really into it. So have the Super League clubs, the new Super League board, the new organisation, even really listen to the fans? Total RL ran a poll, didn't they? That showed most fans were in favour of 14 teams in Super League and no loop fixtures. On the Super League pod this week, we had a load of people getting in touch with their views about the structure changes, and overwhelmingly people were saying should have been 14 teams, or the Championship's got it right with 14 teams, and that sort of stuff. They haven't listened to us there, so are they going to listen to us with the next thing? But the one thing that the fans do talk a lot about is games being a bit quicker, the stoppages being a bit less. So I'm really glad that that's on the table, and I think that's more important to get to than Golden Point or not.
Is it a case, again, that we haven't got the plan in advance of voting the party in? So the main criticism from the Championship 1 the Championship and League One clubs was that they hadn't been consulted. Can Super League lead the debate in this? Doesn't it have to be an RFL or game-wide solution? I would say that the one thing we need to look at more than anything else, if they're talking about changes, is the number of interchanges. That needs to come down, because that seems to have worked in the NRL. That fatigue factor gets bought in. Is that more important than a cosmetic bringing the golden point or not?
I like that idea. I think I would reduce the interchanges, and I like the shot clock. I think they're both good ideas. I think the emphasis got to be on speeding up the game, because it can be a marathon sometimes, can't it? Watching games of rugby league these days because of the video ref. I mean, personally, I would get rid of the video referee, but I think the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think that will happen, so there's no point in wasting time on it. But I think that's got to be the emphasis. You were talking about 14 teams earlier. I totally agree with that, and I think there is a sense with some owners maybe that they know that as well. But the problem is there isn't the money within the game currently to do it. And I mean, Ian Lenigan keeps going on about, we need 4 strong championship teams so that we've got the competition. I think realistically, it's we don't have the money to hand around to 14 teams, and hopefully we could get to that point. Through all the deals that Robert Elston can hopefully do for us over the next few years. We'll have to see, but I think that would be a big change for me, because for me it's about variety. I think we're playing each other too often. Too many games are repeated throughout the season for me, and they'll lose that magic. I don't know if anyone else feels that way.
Yes, I agree completely with what Paul said. Sorry, almost to a T for a change. There's definitely too many games. I think after the Challenge Cup, I know personally, I just sort of said, we've got how many games left in the season? It just seems to drag on too much. I think reducing the interchange has been a big success in the NRL, as has the shot clock and golden point. I don't think Super League should just blatantly copy everything the NRL does, but there are some successful things that have worked. And anyone who's watched the semi-finals of the last couple looks, and you look at that product compared to Super League, and it's like you're watching a different sport at times. Not only in the speed, but in the skills, in the play the ball, the ruck is just so much more cleaner. So whether 2 referees is the way to go for Super League, not the other 2 divisions, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough good referees, but it's definitely worth, I think,
or money for them.
Yeah, well, there isn't enough money for them either. I guess you sort of, whether you look to recruit and bring referees from or you actually set aside some money, $500,000, hundreds of $1,000s who don't do their job. So.
Yeah, we're getting a bit of feedback there from you, John. Not feedback from the audience, actual feedback. But I think the point I wanted to make is I can see from Robert Elston, his point of view is we need more "did you see that" moments. You know what I mean? We need more, people talk, and the stuff when no matter how bad things get in the NRL, the last few weeks you still, find yourself going, "Did you see that during the game?
Has he substituted himself?
I actually did bring myself back in at Paul's expense, because I thought he basically needed a bit of a break before full time. He was out of puff. He's not an 80-minute player. He came on for a stint and did a good job. But I guess we can keep this going amongst ourselves, even though the host has disappeared to make himself a cup of coffee. Is the issue with the screen that referees are now frightened to make decisions, and that's the culture we've got to change? It's not that the screen's there because you can't disinvent it. It's that we're going to it far too often. I mean, we had the try in Toronto this week that, whether we liked it or not, was allowed, and it shouldn't have been because there wasn't a video screen. The game went on. There were still 78 minutes. It doesn't determine the outcome, but we need to now empower referees to make more decisions and get off their case if they get it wrong.
Wasn't that the plan of the system that they brought in? Was to do that, and it's done the opposite, if anything.
Phil, it wasn't just the try disallowed, but it was also the bite and then the shoulder charge off the play. I mean, with that bite, you could obviously see, and a video ref would have been in the referee's ear and saying, look, you've got to give him a card, whether it be yellow or red. And Bussey stayed on the field, which arguably, cost to lose the game, probably more than the try, in my opinion. So I think having a TV game without a video referee is madness.
No, it's more empowering the referees to make their more decisions. If you've still got the video referee, the bite could have still been relayed. But we're at games at the moment, or watching games on the television, where you're going, why have you referred this, and why are you looking at it sometimes from 8 different angles?
Yeah, I agree. That process needs to be improved, and the whole sort of saying whether it is or it isn't a try, maybe even a shot clock for the video referee, so we don't see 15 replays when they've only got 2 camera angles as opposed to 4 camera angles, so you don't know the difference. But I think the referees need to be empowered. But as Paul said, the genie's out of the bottle. You look at every sport, even in football in the World Cup just recently, they're all using video technology. So rugby league's going to go back to like the 30s and just sort of put its head in the sand. I don't think you can ignore video referees as much as some people want to.
Phil, you said something.
Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Unfortunately,
I was just about to say something amazing, but that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Say it. What are you going to say?
No, I was just, because Phil said about laying off referees and letting them make decisions. But it's really wishful thinking, isn't it? Because we can't, let alone getting fans to lay off referees, which I don't think is ever going to happen. We can't even get the coaches to stop laying off the referees. So how is that going to happen? And therefore, I would like a game without a video referee. But if you take away the technology from the referees, then all that does is leave them vulnerable to the sort of stick and abuse that they get from fans, from coaches, from players. So,
one way we could make it happen is Mr. Elston, who has ins at Sky, having worked there before, says, I'm not going to tell you how to run your commentary team, but we don't need a referee in there, because the only reason that he's there is to be contentious. So I would advocate that, if you can bring in the golden point, can that be alongside getting rid of Stuart Cummins in the commentary box?
I'll defend slightly Stuart Cummins if I can. I don't know if that's allowed on this forum to defend Stuart Cummins.
I was just going to say another discussion point about the coverage of Sky's game and how it really basically needs a revamp, top to bottom. But yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah,
hello?
I was just going to... Hello?
Yep. That's fine, it's fine. No, John's
Steve.
a bit shaky with the audio there, that's all. Keep going.
Okay. I was just going to say about Stuart Cummins being on Sky, is that's fine if you get rid of that, as long as the rest of the commentary team aren't then going on about the referees and decisions. The positive about Stuart Cummins on Sky is they can give you the video, the referees side of it, which I think can be lacking otherwise. So if there's going to be like a direction on Sky where they say, we'll just not talk about the referees and the decisions, then that's fine. I'm up for that. As long, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so to finish up, because we could go off on tangents about referees and television coverage and video referees and Toronto and all that sort of stuff. And I guess we started here, talking about Golden Point, okay, and Golden Point has come up as a result of the decision last Friday. So if I could just go round the panel about what you like out of last Friday and what concerns you, what worries you about last Friday, and then I think we're done. So I'll start on my left. I don't know where he is for you if you're watching. I'll start with Paul. Paul, your thoughts on that sort of broad brush comment.
From Friday, the overall overriding positive is that a decision has been taken, and it was pretty, it was pretty definitive. And we can sort of move on from all those many months spent about that. Hopefully now we can concentrate on things that really matter. And we've talked about some of the more trivial things today, because it's fun to do that as well, and they are important to an extent. But hopefully we can focus on some of the really, really crucial issues, which is to get the marketing of the game right, get the commercial activity of the game right, and hopefully you can do that when you've got a united front and you've got a product that sort of believes in itself and isn't at war with itself. And hopefully that's the positive from last week, that we can move forward from that. Well,
Paul, thanks for joining us. You were last on and first off, so you get an early bath for you. But thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me. Sorry about the nasal hair.
No. Okay, and on to you, John. Your overarching thoughts about the events last week?
Yeah, I think basically it's a bit of a panacea, really. I think the middle eights had to go because, excuse me, the Super League clubs, particularly in the top eights, were losing money. I think Castleford and Wakefield were sort of reporting $100,000 losses over the last few years. They're just sort of meaningless fixtures, a lot of them. And with the middle eights, while there are definitely some exciting games, and we've seen this year and with the £1 million game previously, there's not four championship teams well equipped enough or resourced enough to actually challenge. Effectively, most of them are part-time, so it's not really a fair fight, so to speak. So I think while the structure change is positive, it's only one tiny thing in a whole list of things that need to be done, from marketing to media relations to expansion to the product, which we've talked about. There's so many participation, there's so many issues that need tackling, and I think if anyone thinks that this is going to be the sort of be-all and end-all solution, is kidding themselves.
Well, again, John, thanks for joining us, and I guess most people now, even if they thought the Super League they're opposed to the Super League proposals, they're kind of relieved that at least there's a decision now, and that there's a bit of money and ambition behind it, and we don't know if we're going to agree with what's done, but I guess generally speaking, we're willing to give it a try, and that seems to be the overwhelming feeling. What about you, Mark? You follow a Super League team. You don't follow a lower division team. Perhaps if you did, your thoughts might be a little different.
I'm not sure they would be. One thing that none of us have mentioned, and we've all been on podcasts and stuff over the last week and written stuff over the last week, and one thing I've not seen any of us mention is that the Championship Advisory Group also proposed a structure that was not the Super 8s. So everyone wanted rid of the Super 8s. They might have wanted a situation where two can go up to the Super League or something different like that, but that's what we've done, is giving ourselves a simple structure that we can adapt and move in smaller ways without it being a huge change like the last two structure changes were, from licensing to a totally different kind of promotion and relegation back to what is more comfortable. Now we can focus on those other things. And I'm in on Elston on the fact that I believe that this delivers that opportunity for him to focus on these other things, these other issues. So I'm in on that. So I'm overwhelmingly positive, even if it wasn't quite the perfect, well, there's no perfect solution, even though there would have been arguably a better solution out there for a lot of fans' points of view. I think we're moving in the right direction. We've moved away from something no one really wanted anymore.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Mark. Appreciate your time. Just send your invoice. You got my address. Okay, now I guess we'll finish up with not Ros Kaplan. What are you? Good or bad, Phil? I've heard you talk about this, a little bit, but and I heard you talk about it before. What about in the sort of half a week later? What are your thoughts?
I think the good thing is that Rob Elston now gets to do his job, and I think we're all agreed that the qualifications that he's bringing is exactly what the sport needs. He's had a grounding in sport finance. He's had a grounding in television. He's had a long spell at a football club that isn't one of the top clubs. So he knows how to adapt with limited resources. So I think everything he's got on his CV, and perhaps even most importantly, is he understands the politics of the sport, having been involved in the governance of it before, is a resounding positive. I'm happy at this stage to give whatever backing Rob Elston needs to take the sport to the next level, and he now seems to have the platform to do it. My worry is we've fractured the family, whatever the family means, and it is a bit of a meaningless saying. although the Championship and League One advisory group have certainly come out and said that they abide by whatever the decision is, there are some people there that have been seriously hurt by these negotiations. That people have been saying, "I'll vote one way," and have voted another. Others have been coerced into voting a certain way and felt compromised on the back of it. And I do think that there is a fracture there. It's going to be hard in some respects to mend. My worry as well is that we've heard a lot about why Rob Elston needed to have the power to do this, but not how he's going to do it. And normally when it's a manifesto, you see the list of proposals in advance. You don't sort of have a meeting on the Monday going, right, now we'll rub our hands together because we've got a blank sheet of paper. The issues for me have always been participation. I think, I don't know who is in charge of raising more people playing the sport and how they're going to do it. I'm not sure Super League themselves are going to employ development officers, but that's something that as a sport we need to look at. I don't think we've mentioned, I think absolutely right for Mark to bring up the point of saying perhaps Super League at some stage should be 14 teams or maybe 16 teams. How are we going to get to that? What is our policy and strategy on things like new teams coming into the competition? Are they going to be strategic? And if so, how are you going to decide that? I think like all of us here, I think London is a very important part of any strategy that Rob Elston needs to bring in. He wants more profile, more coverage for the sport. I think you can only do that if London is an integral part of what you're doing. How are we going to get London in there? We've seen the Catalan Dragons win the Cup. I think that, again, opens up a space sooner rather than later for a second French team if you want a broadcast deal. He said he wants more money to come into the sport. Well, again, if you want a broadcast deal in the North Americas, you can't have the Wolfpack as the lone club that's going to bring that in. But what's the strategy for all that? We've sort of lost that. The good news is we're going to have the Golden Point next season. I want more detail of what Rob is proposing. And behind all of that detail is how we're going to get more finance.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Our Canadian viewer, Genghis Campbell here, has the opportunity to pick the brains of some of the the best minds in rugby league and me as well. And instead, he just chooses to say we look like the Manson family. Very, very disappointing there. But I want to thank I want to thank you guys for being involved. It's been awesome, and I want to thank those who've listened and those who've watched. And at some point next week, I'll be talking to somebody about something. But don't forget to subscribe to White Line Fever on iTunes and to like Facebook.com/League Hub with no punctuation. And also don't forget to go to Mascord Browns. Don't know why I waited this long to mention Mascord Browns, but anyway.
I'll give them a link, Steve.
Okay, yeah. You get a commission if you hit your link. So anyway, guys, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye from the Manson family. See you later. I'd rather be the Adams family than the Adam. At least I didn't commit any crimes that I know of, the Adams family, except against good taste. Goodbye.